Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena Bradshaw, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. I want to talk about meditation. I have been meditating for over 10 years now, and when I tell you it has completely transformed my life on every single aspect, it truly has brought me back to this wholeness state my mind, body, and soul was craving for so long, and I didn't even realize it. Now you may be thinking, meditation, I can't sit there in stillness. There are so many ways to meditate. And maybe you're asking yourself, you've been wanting to meditate, but you don't know where to start. Or maybe you've fallen off the routine and you need a little support to get back into your flow. Then I've got something for you. Introducing the 10-day meditation challenge now on the Holistic Human Performance app. It was made just for you. These guided meditations are 3 to 5 minutes, short, powerful, and intentional. Each day will give you a specific theme, and it's a fresh energy reset and a gentle way to reconnect with yourself. Whether you're brand new or just need a reboot, this is your sign to say yes to stillness. And the best part, you get to try it out for a week free when you sign up now. Head on over to the Holistic Human Performance app, join the challenge, and start transforming your mornings in just as little as 3 to 5 minutes a day. Your peace is waiting and you deserve it. Head on over to the Apple Store or Google Play to find Holistic Human Performance app now. Again, try it out with a week free trial, either for your monthly subscription or annual subscription. You will not regret it. I'll put all of the information in the show notes.
Hello and welcome to the Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Santora. Gena will be joining in future podcasts, both for astrology seasons in the future, as well as other holistic human performance elements that we want to bring to our community. But I am honored and privileged to talk about this beautiful astrology season that we are about to be in, which is Virgo. And before we even get into the details or insights or potential experiences for us to just be conscious of around this season, so we can really lean into the energy of the universe and lean in to the energy of Virgo specifically. But we always want to go back to the practicality of the validity of what we're experiencing right now in the universe. And when it comes to the astrology seasons, we're always going to relate back to the sun. So there's a variety of planets, there's many things and signs in the charts that we can always look at when it comes to birth charts. But when we're talking seasons, to simplify this for everybody and hopefully maybe tap into just how powerful and real these energies are, is literally looking above us in the sky, especially if it's daytime. If you're listening to this right now during the day, you can see the sun. The sun is what we revolve around, right? And that sun, as it kind of goes through different segments of its own journey right through the year, the sun is going to come into alignment basically with the energy forces of the signs, quote unquote, which are just stars and beautiful alignment that we can see passing in the sky, right? And the sun went from Leo in our last season to now Virgo. And this is a representation that your sun sign, if you were born around this time frame, or you have people being born at this time, they're going to be known as a Virgo, and that's always going to relate to the sun sign. Now, for those that are intrigued to go even deeper on our holistic human performance philosophies around our astrology, we always love bringing in the strongest planet and the moon and the rising, but also honoring every single planet is going to be so pivotal when you're looking at the energy forces that are within you. There's something very impactful by knowing all the planets, but most of us do always at least recognize the starting point of the sun sign, right? So for all my Virgos out there listening, this is an extra benefit for that energy that's naturally within you. But for anyone that's not a Virgo, there you'll learn here as I communicate, there's always Virgo energy in all of us. And where it shows up might be different, but that's always going to be different in terms of energy of the planets, energy of the signs, the houses of a birth chart play a big factor into the experiences that energy might blossom or manifest in this life. But again, simplifying it, the sun is in Virgo, which represents our season for the next few weeks, is going to have Virgo energy in our collective universal realm, right? So, what does that mean? I'm sure many Virgos are out there probably already looking at my spiel and being like, more details, let's get more practical. That Virgo energy is really a brilliant and very intelligent being where it can really look so intellectually at things, but it's got that element of practicality, right? Data analysis is a great manifestation for the Virgo energy. Thinking about engineers, thinking about all the coding they do. I was fortunate for multiple companies to work in the tech space, and I can know those engineers, the long-term benefit to the process that they're so consumed with. It has to be so detailed oriented as well. Another key word for Virgo, so detail oriented. Now, one of the powerful things that also could be, some energy that just might give a little more discomfort at times is the strive for perfection. This is something around the Virgo energy, wanting to be perfect, right? Now, think about these two different manifestations, right? You have a teacher. My teacher is a Virgo teacher, and you're bringing them this assignment, this final exam that you've worked on and you've worked on and you've worked on, and you've gone to study hall, you've done all the hours of work, and every time you go to this Virgo teacher, it's just not good enough for an A yet, yet, pointing out the details, pointing out the practicality of why this might not be up to the standards that we can really get to in this type of manifestation, right? The teacher trying to provide intelligence, trying to get a student to complete the assignment. But their perfectionism of wanting that perfect alignment is something that can be strived for, can be achieved in certain cases because we control our minds, we control our narratives within. So the Virgo is going to not only seek perfection, but it's also going to be the measuring stick to that perfection. It's such an intelligent, forceful energy. So even in the manifestation of, teacher in that example, a lot of Virgos you might see as teachers because of the power of that energy manifesting in a classroom is a great example. An engineer, as we pointed out as well, are always prime examples to be like, all right, what does this energy actually look like? Because it's among us, it's around us at all times. It's the frequency that somebody is putting off from their inner soul and their inner heart, whether you're religious, not religious, unity belief. The value of astrology, it's a map of your unconscious mind. Virgo energy is in it, right? And why don't we honor all these energies, but especially when there's the collective energy in this season of Virgo? Oh, I'm going to lean into where can I be more detailed? What have I overlooked that I could be making more perfect, right? But I would also come to the Virgo energy of practicality. So in astrology, right, we have four different elements: water, earth, fire, and air, right? And they're going to have some resemblance into their different signs, three signs per element. And in our case with Virgo, right, it's an earth sign. So when you're thinking about practicality, right, here on earth, feet being grounded, you really can't talk of Virgo a bunch of nonsense. You need to bring it back to practicality, right? I would love in a business to have a Virgo who's my accountant because one, all that detail oriented, they're probably not going to miss my taxes. They're probably not going to miss revenue going somewhere that we didn't even notice. They're probably going to build a really powerful system for that, right? But that practicality as well of practical numbers, right? We can always manifest and have visions of entrepreneurship and say, we're going to make $1 million. Tell a Virgo that, and that sounds great, but it's going to go over their head unless you tell them how you're going to go about it. The details and the practical approach is going to feed that Virgo energy, right? So that's some stuff from a Virgo standpoint to lean into in this collective season from the Virgo energy. But we do also, in our astrology, we have such great reputation for something called rulership. And when it comes to rulership, it basically allows a little bit of a comfortable foundation, we hope, when it comes to astrology, learning it, where, yes, if you want a reading with us, feel free to book. I'm happy to do assessments, to answer questions. You can more in our sessions. We ask questions to see how the energy is manifesting and build different narratives to see how they could manifest. Because there's no good or bad in astrology. It is the reality that the energy has harmony, the energy has discord. It's going to show up one way or another. It's going to be there, but let's direct the energy to blossom in a more of a harmonious way, right? But what allows us to have such deep depth in the impact on our astrology is that value that there is no good or bad. I don't see things in this world that way. It's opportunities, there's lessons, and then we're just here living, right? But what allows us the space to maybe, separate from good or bad narratives that are kind of involved in our social construct, but it's a pattern of our heads. We understand that, but learning over time that things are just happening. Things are just happening and asking yourself, where did that come from? Right. So last piece on the Virgo energy is looking at your chart, find the sign Virgo, and see where it is. It could be with a planet. You could have multiple planets in Virgo. You could have Virgo just sitting on the cusp of a house, and that could tell you a lot of where your Virgo energy is because it rules that house. So we're here to support if you have questions to that extent of detail, but we want to give you the power on your own to have the conscious effort towards these energy forces wherever they are for you and yourself, because it can lead you to such a high potential of optimal lifestyle. And then leading into this collective season will only value it more because wherever Virgo is showing up in your chart, it's likely going to be a little intensified and amplified with the collective energy of the Virgo sign. Now, going further in that, the rulership. Rulership means the sign has a planetary ruler and the sign has a house ruler. Planets are represented in our birth charts as urges. They're just urges, and they all have a specific identification to urges in our head and in our heart, and mostly in our soul. That's what this birth chart is, our soul blueprint. And then the houses, they're going to represent experiences, right? They're going to have different, each house has a different experience element to it. One house represents relationships, another house represents finances, another house represents careers. So when you're thinking about the urge itself, you can look at the planet and then look at what house it's in and understand that urge is probably going to show up more in that specific dynamic of my life experiences. And then the sign itself, it's the flavor. It's more known as the motivator. So you have the planetary urge sitting in a sign that acts as the motivator, the flavor of that urge specifically for you based on its sign. And then the house is going to represent the actual experience in this 3D playing field, right? So rulership is so big for that reason that you can gain insight in your birth chart on any question you have in this life, no matter where those planets are. It's not just about the sun. It's not just about your rising or your moon or your strongest planet, which has a large part. They're playing roles, but everything matters in that chart. And when it comes to the Virgo rulership and you were looking at your chart, you're going to want to find the planetary ruler, Mercury. So we can't really talk Virgo without bringing in Mercury. For those that may have listened to our Gemini season or that have become well versed in our work together around planetary rulership, yes, Mercury has a dual rulership where it rules Gemini as well. And you can kind of see there can be correlations of Gemini and Virgo in terms of the intelligence that plays a factor, the value of the mind is in those signs, but they are different. Gemini's more of a curiosity, more of a communicator sign, while Virgo, again, practicality, detail oriented. But the ruler, Mercury, of both those signs, its urge is the intellect, right? So you can start to see, ooh, I can gain this insight of astrology because the rulership makes these things start to align. And When you're thinking Virgo season, we're also going to think about Mercury. Mercury things showing up. Mercury is the planet right next to the sun. It goes around the sun fast. Because it's so close, because of the gravitational pull, that planet is booming around the sun. And when you think about Mercury in its essence, right, that speed can relate to kind of its intellectual value, right? I'm seeing it in its Virgo essence almost, right? It's scanning the environment of the universe. It's going so much faster around the universe than the other planets. It can see where they're at. It's getting its details. It's examining its environment, and it's learning, right? That urge for learning can come into this environment with the Mercury field. Mercury's best known as the messenger of the gods. If and I don't mean religion, I respect all religions. I respect all narratives built in our souls, built in our minds and our hearts, right? That's why astrology is powerful to me. There is a belief system around it, but I don't view it as a religion experience. I believe it as a logical realization to honoring the most authentic self of yourself, because the urges are there. And if you can see them in the chart and just start to gain perspective and clarity that this is who I am, yeah, my learning intellectual urge coming from Mercury, for me personally, it's in my eighth house. So I recognize, oh, eighth house experiences are going to have more manifestations that will fill the potential of my Mercury energy, right? So Mercury is something definitely need to examine when you're thinking about the season of where that can show up in your chart. But overall, in the collective, right, the intellect, the messenger. So in this season, this is also a great time to ask yourself our season question. In this season, we want to know from the community, what do you want to learn in this season? What is something that you have maybe put off, maybe you've been haven't thinking about, but what is something that you want to learn? And even if you don't completely answer that question or want to answer that question, just start to be curious with yourself and recognize, am I reading more of anything? Am I reading online more? Am I writing more? Right? These are forms of the Mercury energy in that Virgo style, right? The learning process, the urge to communicate in some form, will play in more of the Mercury, but seeking perfect communication, right? There's that Virgo element that can come into play. But looking at this season, lean into things that you might want to learn, because it could be easier for you to learn these things because the energy is out in the field, that you have an opportunity to meet that frequency. And when you're meeting that frequency at a high vibration, there's more harmony, which just makes life easier, right? So highly suggest looking at your Mercury as well as looking at your Virgo. And please feel free to always schedule a session with us if you need the support to get some guidance and clearance on this language, because it is a challenging language. Absolutely. And there's a lot to it. I am still learning every single day, but I'm dedicated every single day to learning it. And Virgo season is going to be great for me as I'm taking my astrology to a higher level by diving into more medical astrology, so that myself, Gena, and our holistic human performance community can really make an impact in an astrological setting in the medical field. Last piece to the puzzle, in terms of rulership and this seasonality, I mentioned house rulers. So a lot of the terminology that I've already used for Mercury can resemble the house ruler as well. That's what makes it a little bit more simpler when you're setting the foundation of your astrological learning, because the third house is the ruler of, Mercury and technically Gemini, but you're looking at that third house as having some power because of the connection to Mercury. But overall, when it comes to Virgo rulership, we're actually going to go to the sixth house. So a little different where the sixth house now comes into play, as Virgo does have its, partner in crime, Gemini, to an extent with that Mercury rulership that we mentioned. But the third house is going to be Gemini rulership, more communication, more, learning kind of going on there. But the communication house of the third fits better with that Gemini. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet, we welcome you to do so, even though it's not Gemini season. always great to learn just about the signs themselves. But for Virgo, we're going to look at six house themes. Sixth house, thinking more about the Virgo-ness, it's actually really around the detailed orientation that a Virgo element can bring in and the dedication to it. Because the sixth house is a house best known as mentors, right? Yes, mentors is a big factor into that. Thinking about who can I learn from, is a great question as well when you bring in that sixth house energy, sixth house experiences. But it's also known as the house of labor, right? So think about details. Think about the labor that goes into being an engineer from our example earlier. Think about the process of getting things done and the practicality and that earth vibe that we were putting out, right? Think about many years ago working in the field as a farmer, working in the field, doing hard labor during harder times in our history when you think about slavery, right? The labor and that went into that process too. This sixth house can have some slavery vibes because of the labor side of things, but that's the key word that we want to focus on and not try to uh, discourage or put anybody off towards the communication around the slavery side, but more the labor of element, right? And that Virgo-ness, the practicalness, the detail oriented, the work that's going to go into this process is very, very powerful Virgo energy. So it's going to be in a great season. Hopefully, this has equipped you both with just insight, natural insight astrologically. We're always open arms to take any of our courses, take any of our classes, to learn more. And again, yes, this is astrological seasons that we're talking about, but we also have very powerful spiritual school sessions that we're running and a lot more. Just launched some zodiac sound baths a couple months ago. So if this is the season for Virgo and you want to lean into a zodiac sound bath, Gena did absolutely extraordinary with actually leaning into the frequency of Virgo. They are amazing to cleanse the soul, lean into meditation work, and really just give yourself an upgrade. So we're here for you. We appreciate you. And we hope you have a wonderful Virgo season. Thanks so much.